What is the dumbest solution to a problem that actually worked? For more infotainment, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates. Thanks for watching. I went to cancel a doctor's appointment and they said it was a $200 charge without a week's notice. I asked how much it was to reschedule, they said it was free. Okay, so I need to reschedule for 2 weeks out. Is 3 weeks okay? Yep. Alright, you're all set for 3 weeks from now. Anything else I can do for you? Yes, I need to cancel my appointment. We need a week's notice. My appointment is 3 weeks away. Oh. Okay. Sure. Thank you. Couldn't believe it worked. Edit. Well, crap, my most upvoted comment is a story about me conning some poor receptionist. I'm a schmuck. My folks were in town, and my wife and I wanted to take them to dinner. We head to a nearby mediocre steakhouse at the request of my parents, and it's around 6 p.m. The hostesses tell us there's a minimum 45-minute wait. I get suspicious, as their parking lot had barely any cars, so I peek around into their dining area. There are several open tables that would fit a party of 4. Mildly annoyed, I ask the hostesses why we can't be seated at any of these tables. They reply that they're being held for future reservations. I get on my smartphone, open the Open Table app, make a reservation for 6:15 p.m. for a party of 4, and we're seated immediately. I was working as a paramedic at a music festival when we got called to a kid tripping on acid. The guy had climbed to the top of a portable generator stadium light. So he's 20 feet in the air, on a light pole staring into this blazing midnight sun screaming, "I'm a moth, go into the flame." We had several cops, firefighters, and myself standing at the base for 30 minutes discussing how to get him down without killing him or us. The entire time a crowd of people on drugs is surrounding us to see how it all plays out. Do we get a ladder truck and try to coax him down? What if he won't go? Do we spray mace up there? What if he falls? All of a sudden this greasy-looking janitor walks up, turns off power to the generator, turns on his flashlight and aims it at the Mothman. Dude looks at the flashlight on the ground, scambless down and follows it to the medical rent like a puppy about to get a snack. I'm embarrassed that none of us thought about that. I once owned a Subaru and drove a half-hour away to a friend's house. On the way home, the brakes lost all their fluid. When I stepped on the brake pedal, the car just coasted. This was in the middle of a blizzard. Nobody else was on the road, so in my head, it made the most logical sense to drive it home right then and there, rather than wait for a tow truck during a blizzard. I took back roads and stayed in first or second gear, 20 miles per hour at most, and braked to a stop with the emergency brake. It was really easy in retrospect. Dumb, but easy. That's why it's called an emergency brake. It relies on a cable, so when your car's hydraulic brake system fails, you can still slow to stop. Takes a lot longer. Only pointing this out because I've actually heard people say they thought emergency brake meant use in case of emergency, like, oh, an accident happened in front of me and I need stop instantly, pull e-brake. Back when I was in 6th form at school, we had new sofas in the common room, a room where our year could hang out and relax/work/listen to music on our time off. They had been there only a couple of days before one of the legs snapped off one of the sofas. Now we could have attempted to fix it, or just left it missing a leg, but there were often checks and cleaners moving furniture would have noticed it was broken and we would have got in trouble for not respecting school property. So we did the only sensible thing, which was break all the legs off the sofa, and then all the sofas in the room so they were all at the same height. We stashed the legs in the ceiling, and nobody knew a thing. A few years ago I worked at a U.S. Airways contract where a lot of the baggage handlers were guys fresh out of high school. Picture in your mind the assortment of rapscallions and buffoons you hung out with at that age. Now put that rambunctious crew in charge of a bunch of airplanes. Those are the characters in this story. One day 2 of them were playfully wrestling each other in the break room. It quickly came to an end when one guy got slammed into the wall and left a huge, human-sized dent in the drywall. It was a weekend, so management wasn't around, which meant they had to hide the damage in order to escape punishment. The wall they dented had a rather large, old corkboard on it. This corkboard was probably 5 feet tall and 8 feet long, and had clearly been affixed to the wall for years. They decided to move the corkboard to cover the hole. Now, if you saw the setup of the room, you'd know this was the dumbest solution you could dream up. The corkboard was centered on the wall, with a few feet of blank wall space on both the left and right sides. But the dent was all the way to the right of the wall, in the empty wall space between the corkboard and the main entrance. To move the corkboard to cover the hole, they had to shift it down and to the right a few feet. Not inches, feet. The repositioned corkboard almost covered the light switch, and exposed a giant, white imprint of where the corkboard used to be. If Stevie Wonder walked into that room, he'd say, "Someone has clearly moved that corkboard." Monday comes and goes, and no one in charge notices that the corkboard had been moved. We were second shift, so we assumed when we showed up there would be lots of questions. But there were none. It was business as usual. It wasn't until a few weeks later that management noticed, but at that point they had no way of telling when it happened. They couldn't tell if first shift did it, or second. If it had happened on a Sunday or a Wednesday, in May or June. They asked around a lot, and I think they even had a general idea of who was probably involved. We all really hated the manager, so it was pretty satisfying to see him come up with nothing when his boss told him to solve the mystery of the human-sized hole. Nurses here will recognize this one. Once I was dealing with an extremely agitated and fearful Alzheimer's patient who had been sundowning since 3 p.m. Sundowning is an occurrence in some Alzheimer's patients where their mental function gets worse and worse as the day goes on / once it starts to get dark. Anywho, this sweet old lady was having an absolute fit. All through my shift, night shift I was running in and out of her room. The bed alarm kept going off, she was so confused, afraid. I desperately wanted her to go to sleep. Mind you, I had 7 other patients. I finally walk her out to the nurse's station and plop her down in a seat next to me while I do my charting. She is yelling at me and throwing things. I've had it at this point and I'm running out of ideas. I finally look at her and say, "How will I ever finish with the wash? My husband will be so mad when he gets home. Would you help me finish?" She looks me right in the eye, clear as day, and says, "Damn it, sister, don't you ever learn? Give me that laundry." Haha, so I grab a stack of folded towels and mess them up real quick and plop them in front of her. She folded all of them. I would say, "Oh, look at that." She turned around and I would mess the towels up again. This went on a few times until this sweet lady just passed out, exhausted from being so worked up earlier, and maybe from all the towel folding. I slowly push her in the desk chair down the hall and gently get her back into bed. She started to wake up and I leaned down and whispered, "All the wash is done. You have nothing else to worry about." She slept throughout the night. We were both happy. I am the grandma whisperer. My great-grandmother was a nurse during the World War II. She was tending injured soldiers as they were returning home. She told me this story. The poor boys were in such great pain and they had all the pain medication they were allowed to have. It was really strong stuff and too much would kill them. We couldn't even give them aspirin most times. I got a clever idea to use a new candy. The boys thought I was giving them pills. Time for a blue one, time for 2 yellows, those boys would be calm for an hour or 2 and sometimes rest. I was their favorite nurse because I told them I wasn't supposed to give them the e-pills because they were experimental. I always had a pocket full of M and Ms. Nurse Anne, redacted, from her diary.